The crypto markets are by far the riskiest form of investment if we're mainly touching on the volatility. At least that was until today. Today we're going to be talking about what BarnBridge is, how you can make money on BarnBridge by cashing in on some of that risk, as well just to see kind of what they're building over there. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, as I mentioned, BarnBridge is a protocol that tokenizes different kinds of risks in DeFi, such as inflation risk, market price risk, as well as cash flow volatility risk. Now, I know all of that sounds very vague, so we're going to go straight to their platform and take a look at their products. But the main thing to kind of just really focus on is the fact that we're really just cashing in on the volatility within the space. So one of the first things that they have here, I guess one of the first modules or buttons or whatever you want to call whatever this stuff is on the left, is going to be yield farming. Now, yield farming obviously is on some of your favorite DeFi platforms, obviously. But they do only currently have one pool available in this little section here, which is going to be the USDC bond uni pool. Pretty much providing liquidity on uni for the USDC and bond, which is their governance token, providing liquidity for that pair. Users are going to be rewarded every week with, of course, bond tokens. And in this case, they define actually every week as an epoch. Epic, is that how you pronounce epoch? Sounds pretty epic. But yeah, users are rewarded every week with the governance token of Bond. They did have two other pools here, but those have already ended. As you can see, each pool has its own specific time period and lasts only for a set amount of time, which I find very interesting. Now you may be asking yourself, Hunter, how the hell is BarnBridge going to operate with only one pool? Well, with that one pool, believe it or not, is not one of their main products. We're going to get into the main product right now, and that's going to be Smart Yield. So in Smart Yield, and as you can see, this is going to be the tab underneath the yield farming one. There are two types of, I guess you could say, pools you can choose when using BarnBridge. I'm not going to call it a pool. I think it's technically called a tranche. Tranche. Tranche is a French word meaning slice or portion. In the world of investing, apparently, it's used to describe a security that can be split up into smaller pieces and subsequently sold to investors. Now, I know, again, all that sounded very, very weird and didn't make any sense. Just stay with me here, okay? There are two different types of tranches you can pretty much involve yourself in when using Smart Yields. Number one is a junior tranche. High risk and high reward, essentially. And of course, these have variable APRs. So you could pretty much involve yourself in one of these. And you can kind of consider it a pool, a vault, whatever you like to call it. But the point is that you're willing to forego a steady APR, a steady return on investments for a potentially higher risk, but of course, potentially a lower reward or higher reward. It really just depends. Then, of course, you have the senior tranche, which is lower risk, right? So the actual APR, I think they actually advertise it as fixed. So going into a senior tranche, you're pretty much just guaranteeing yourself a fixed APR that's not going to move, which is it's really not found anywhere in DeFi, to be honest with you. But of course, you're going to get a low reward because the fixed APR is going to be a lot lower. And that's kind of what I think is pretty cool. While the senior APR it's pretty low, I'm not going to lie to you. It's guaranteed, as I mentioned, because if the APR from the originating protocol does drop too low, let's say it drops way too low, and all of a sudden that if you thought you were getting a higher APR in the junior tranche and you're not, technically. I keep on saying the word tranche. It's so fun. Technically, those junior tranche positions are subsidizing what the senior tranches are getting. So because it's higher risk, if the APR does drop quite a bit and you're involved in one of those junior tranches, then you're not going to be getting a high reward anymore. A good amount of your reward is going to be going to the senior tranche to make sure that they're getting that fixed APR that BarnBridge pretty much guaranteed. And then, of course, again, it also works the other way too, where if the APR is really high in the originating protocol, whether it be Cream, Aave, or Compound, which is going to be the different types of protocols they're using, then senior tranche is going to get the same APR no matter what. But the junior tranche is going to be fucking booming. They're going to be getting obviously a lot higher APR just because they took the higher risk. So, of course, they're going to get the higher reward. But I think this whole tranche situation, I've never heard of it until now, and I love saying it, by the way. Tranche. So now that we kind of know how it works, let's take a real quick look at an example of what this actually looks like on the dashboard. So let's go ahead and look at like one with really high APR. We can actually just look at the USDC compound in the first one. So as you can see, there's something called senior liquidity first, and that's honestly just going to be how much money people decided to provide as a senior tranche, and it's going to vary depending on when you're seeing this, so it might change. The senior APY is right next to that, and that's going to be the fixed rate that you're pretty much guaranteed when you enter. Again, that's going to be for the lower risk, lower reward. That's what the senior stuff is. And then you have the junior liquidity, which is a shitload higher. It looks like it's almost 100x higher than the senior one. And it doesn't surprise me, right? You want to get that high reward because, as you can see, the junior APY is 2.75% plus 13% APR. And again, it's going to depend on when you're watching this. 13% APR in bond, and that's going to be, of course, for going ahead and actually, staking that bond. And the last section to the right is going to be the J token conversion rate, and that's essentially what you're getting for each USDC token that you deposit. More or less kind of like a vault. You get like an IOU token in return, and that's how you're going to be able to get that extra 13% APR in bond, because you're actually going to want to go ahead and take those J tokens, go to the pool section of the actual dashboard, and pretty much just stake them there and gain some of that sweet yield, of course, which is very high for stable coins, I would say. I mean, in that case, at the current rates that I'm looking at it right now, it's probably around 15% APY, which is pretty. It's a lot. It's a lot of money, I would say. But this is the smart yield section. I think it's really interesting. But my personal favorite section isn't even this. My favorite section actually is smart exposure. So smart exposure, put simply, is automated position management between any two ERC20 tokens. So if you're taking a look at the dashboard here, you can see that there are different types of ERC20 tokens here. The main ones are going to be wrapped ETH and USDC, as well as wrapped ETH and wrapped Bitcoin. Of course, different sections for each one. But the main part that you're going to want to keep in mind is that you can see there are different positions in which you can kind of provide liquidity for. In this case, again, this is another tranche. Love me some tranches. And the main point of this is that you're able to pretty much, it's almost kind of like, think of it as like, let's say you wanted to hold your coins, right? In this case, I want to hold half ETH. No, actually, I don't want to hold half. I'm going to hold 75% ETH, okay? Let's say I want to hold 75% ETH, and I'm holding 25% USDC. Kind of hedge my bets with the USDC, and of course ETH, hopefully it's going to take me to the moon. Instead of just holding it, I can essentially provide it into smart exposure, and rather than like a pool position where it's like you're constantly the actual amount of each token is going up and down as the prices go up and down, it actually keeps your balance at, in this case, 75% ETH, 25% USDC, and allows you to essentially just get rewards for being able to do that. And it's going to be similar to smart yield, whereas in your rewards are going to be pretty much tokenized into the actual token you see down here, which is going to be, in this case, it'll be per BBET WETH 75 USDC 25. It's pretty much just a tokenized position that gains interest as the volatility in the market starts to pick up. And this is going to be kind of in the beginning of the video where I mentioned volatility is going to be like one of the main things, where smart exposure, one of the reasons you would do this instead of just holding, because it is kind of similar, is number one, for sideways markets. So in this case right now, we're in a sideways market where things aren't really going up, things aren't really going down, but it helps because it's constantly moving like this, right? Prices are going up a little bit, going down a little bit, and kind of evening out. So that's good for volatility harvesting, they call it. Of course, it's good for volatile assets. So in this case, wrapped ETH and wrapped Bitcoin is probably going to be a better case in that scenario, where there's just more opportunity for the pool to rebalance itself. Because, and I probably should have mentioned that earlier, is that as you can see, there's something called a rebalancing strategy in the middle. And essentially it says every day or so they're able to rebalance the pools. And I think there's another scenario where they might have to rebalance it before that. But the point is that if the pool becomes a little bit too uneven because of volatility, then it just rebalances itself. And that's kind of where you're able to harvest some of that volatility. And again, it just depends on the prices of each asset, right? And then even just in general, assuming that you are fine with just the safety of the contract itself, then mid to long-term stuff, everything's going to be volatile for a long time anyways. So potentially putting your yield and stuff like that, putting your tokens in here, it's pretty much another reason to do that. If you know everything's going to be volatile, you might as well cash in on it while holding your same position in both ETH and whatever other pair. Personally, if it was me, I would definitely do this if it was wrapped ETH and DPI, or like wrapped ETH and MVI, like one of those ETF kind of things. Because to me, I'm just cashing out on ETH at the end of the day, and it would be kind of cool to be able to cash out on the DeFi sector as well as the NFT sector too. That's just a little, a little tip there for the, BarnBridge team. You know what I mean? Just want to throw in there because I almost forgot to add audits. They have a bunch of audits if you look at their GitHub by a couple of different companies. But I do want to keep in mind that although these guys have been audited, and this goes for any other smart contract out there, that there is smart contract risk. There is risk of a bug being in there, even though it has been audited. Looks like maybe even multiple times. Just keep that in mind, especially because, I mean, smart contract risk always, I guess you could say, heightens itself when you have protocols interacting with other protocols, right? It's different when a protocol, like for example, like Aave is just kind of dealing with itself, right? But in this case, BarnBridge is dealing with Aave, Compound, and other ones. So not only do you have to worry about the BarnBridge protocol, you have to worry about the Aave protocol, or the one underlying. You know what I mean? Again, not saying that they're bad engineers or anything like that. It's just something I need to always remember to say and keep in mind with any type of smart contract, any type of DeFi video, that there is always smart contract risk. And these guys look as legitimate as they can get. Definitely a lot more legitimate than the stuff you see on the Binance Smart Chain and sometimes even on the Polygon chain. But nonetheless, I just wanted to make sure I put that out there. Now, the next thing, of course, is going to be Bond, which is the governance token. This is a beautiful platform. I got to say, number one, I don't think I've ever seen a better looking governance platform on any other protocol. So hats off to the designers on this one. But it's pretty much like any other protocol with a DAO. You're able to use bond tokens as voting power when voting on proposals, which of course anyone can put up. You can also delegate voting power to people you trust to vote smartly. Smartly a word? Pretty much just people you can delegate your bond tokens to vote on your behalf. And then in terms of the token distribution, really just bringing this up because it's plain on their website, and I actually really like that it's very transparent. Is that I guess when they first came out, about 68% of the actual bond tokens went to the community, 12.5% is going to the core team, about 10% to the DAO treasury, 7.5% to investors, and about 2% to advisors. So obviously, I love the fact that it's really transparent. You can even see a distribution schedule down here, which I'm not really going to get into, but I do love that they're open and just honest about especially how the tokens are coming out, because it's obviously always a big point of contention with a lot of these DeFi protocols, especially nowadays. In terms of the roadmap and future stuff coming up, BondBridge does have a couple things. Looks like they have some secondary markets products coming out, which I assume. Do I want to say that maybe like tokenized assets, like synthetic assets? I don't know. It's most likely just adding more ERC20 coins, but I can always what's it called, elaborate in the comments below if I find out. There's the Bond Desk as well as Smart Alpha launch as well. I'm interested to find out what those two are going to be. But I already love the fact that BarnBridge is already kind of killing it in like what they're doing specifically, like tokenizing yield. Tokenizing risk. It's so interesting. Again, like I do reviews on stuff all the time, and it's crazy to me how I'm still able to come across these different protocols that are able to set themselves apart from every other one. You know what I mean? And again, they're all complicated when you first take a look at them because they're so different. But at the end of the day, it's like any other protocol. You just get used to it. You understand how it works. And yeah, I do want to also add that they are going to be on multiple different chains. Ethereum, obviously, they're on Polygon as well, that's pretty dope. That's why I'm wearing this little Polygon shirt. And of course, they're also on the Ethereum testnet for Optimism. I do hope that they come to Arbitrum. I don't know if they're doing that yet, but come through to Arbitrum, bro. It'd be pretty dope. And again, I want to touch on Smart Exposure, bro. I honestly really love that product. And if they can add the ability to, I guess you probably have to do it with the governance proposal, but if we could have like ETH and like the different indexes or ETFs like DPI, MVI in there, I guarantee you that'd be the most poppin' product, 100%. I can guarantee you that. You know what I mean? And with that being said, comment down below, what do you guys think about BarnBridge? You a fan of it? Do you think it's dumb? Do you think it's a great idea? I personally like Smart Exposure. I want to do some wrapped ETH and DPI. Where's it at? I don't know. I'll see you guys in the next one, alright? Peace out. Peace out.